right, thank you for staying with Citizen. Daybreak is continuing. The conversation is continuing even during the break. Now, let's take the feedback and see what you're saying online at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. Let's see what you're saying on this topic of ours now. And let's bring that up and see what your comments are. Babu Michael says, this ping-pong game the executive of this country is playing about the judiciary is not acceptable. I call it a game because does the meeting between the CJ and the president prevent the DP from taking the action he was to take on a particular judge? Okay, that's an interesting question. Engineer Nazaro says, Mr. Ondiek, judiciary is supposed to be the only independent arbitrator to every case without fear or favor. Don't be so excited when it's being captured. Remember, power is temporary and rotating. Okay? Peter says the three arms of government should be independent. Let the executive come out clear and name the corrupt judges. Okay? Today's parliament is just an extension of the executive. State House pulls the strings and they, majority, dance to the tunes. They have colluded with it to trample on the constitution. This parliament will go on record as the most corrupt. Okay? We're talking about evidence here and making allegations. All right. So you wanted to answer the question that Kuru asked.
Still have not answered my question.
And what is the relation between corruption and getting more judges?
Actually, not the relation, the public condemnation of judges as being corrupt, then a meeting, and then all of a sudden we are told, oh, we'll give you more judges, we'll give you more money.
You would have wanted the judges to be named after that meeting.
Absolutely.
Saying that we have now concluded at 1, 2, 3, 4,
and
5.
I will still ask another question, Trevor, to Lotte, and you want him to answer also after Ondieki.
Yes.
If he claims that President William Ruto has punished some corrupt individuals, I want him also to answer the question. If you are corrupt, it means you have committed actually a criminal offense. In our language at Third Way Alliance Kenya, corruption, especially of public money, is theft, which is criminal. We want to see the president take the next step. Don't tell us he just fired somebody or some CEO. Prosecute them. Because that's when the rule of law will come into effect, which is legislating.
Okay.
When we talk about the rule of law, let it apply all sides. And let there be equity in the dispensation of justice. And also, the Member of Parliament said that there's a communique. And the leader of Third Way Alliance asked whether it was public. You know, if you have not read the communique, it does not make it private. So maybe if you have not seen it, make efforts of seeing it or finding it.
I'll give it for free.
That one, and it's available for free, or maybe it can be shared. Now, I want to answer him into the question which he asked about why is it that after the meeting there is an increase or maybe a particular number of judges to be employed. One, service delivery is determined by the amount of labor force which is available. The senator asked that the president should be patient to wait for court to determine these matters. That time is not there because Kenyans want service. It is not wrong for the president to say, okay, I can allow, as the head of state, and advise that there be budgetary allocation to allow for employment of more judges in case that is what is derailing the process. And if facilitation in terms of funding is a problem, as the head of state, I may make advisory, or I can advise that more funding be added to you so that we don't have these orders. Even if there's an order and there's an appeal, it ought to be dispensed with very fast to allow service delivery. And if there was a fly on the wall in the principle of law, when there are two people agreeing, we were not in the State House, but at least I can read from the fly who was hanging on the wall while those people were talking, that maybe Koome, as the CJ could have said the reasons why there is a suspicion of corruption, because if there is a judgment that is being waited for and it is not coming out, you can suspect that someone has interfered with the process. Then Koome could have said that there is no interference, we are only lacking labor force. Then the president could have responded by saying, okay, if that is the situation, then I'm going to try so that you are added labor so that we don't have this kind of derailing processes. So I think I can understand it from where I sit, that these people talked, and these are 2 or 3 arms of government. And the parliament was there, the executive was there, and the judiciary was there. All of them could have agreed that this is the problem. It might not be the problem being stated, but overall and generally, Trevor, corruption is a menace in this country, and it begins from all of us. every Kenyan attempts to get shortcuts in everything, and that is the truth.
Certainly not me. Don't accuse.
You are one of them, because
Certainly not
you walk along the corridors of justice, and these famous corridors of justice talks a lot of things. And Trevor, you will tell him not to stop me, because that's the truth.
Speak for yourself.
That is the truth.
If you are confessing to being a corrupt person, if you are confessing to being a corrupt
I'm not
person,
confessing. I'm telling you what happens in the corridors of justice in this country.
Okay.
That is bar talk and village talk. You see, as a lawyer, I believe in evidence. And I'm not saying society...
So which evidence have you presented of corruption of the president? Have you ever presented any evidence? You claim the president is corrupt.
The Auditor General report...
No, Auditor General is not investigative of the president.
No. You see, Ondeki, I thought you wanted to become a member of parliament at some point. And you're actually coordinating politics in Luo.
You accuse on this end and this end, you don't want to accuse.
Trevor, with all due respect, I'm only saying, okay, we have a public document, and Ondieki ought to know the process. By the Auditor General, let me just educate him a little bit. The Auditor General actually spends about 6 months auditing expenditure of public money. Yeah? He actually even bembelezes you, tells you, Ondieki, you said you'll build a road here. Where is the supporting documentation, where is the evidence, blah, blah. By the time the auditor, writes that report and makes findings, he has actually confirmed that money has been stolen. Part of the problem we have in this country is that when it goes to the legislature, and Honorable Manzo here can confirm, the legislatures, MPs, now begin to call that audit findings at audit queries. That's why there is someone, for example, a governor who has not accounted for money, or an MP. Those are not audit queries. Those are audit findings, meaning that actually you have not accounted for money. And Ondieki, you need to know this process, because I see you want to become a member of Karachuonyo.
Okay.
No, not yet. That's not for this. That's not for this table. But I will.
Well, good. I really appreciate.
I thought you are an ambitious.
I appreciate.
I will be.
What Okota said about corruption. He has said it very well, and he said the Auditor General report is out, and it touches on every institution in this government. And that is exactly what the meeting on Monday discussed. And I have actually said necessity is the mother of invention. So because it became necessary that the president started this debate, healthy debate, then there was a meeting. It necessitated for a meeting. Okay. We then came up with the 6 points which I talked about, which my friends do not have, and I'll give them this communication. And the fact that they do not have this communication does not mean
make it public.
It is not public. Yeah. It is public already. It's only that you have not done your research.
It's not in the newspapers.
It should not be in the newspapers.
First point of
it should not be in the newspapers. The communication is out. We will give it to you. Please, just kindly, I'll give it to you for free. The 6 points that were actually came out talked entirely about corruption, not only in the judiciary. So the president has started an healthy debate in this country.
Give him more time to give us the 6 points.
The 6 points are here.
Yeah, quickly. So just read for Kenyans.
For Kenyans.
Yeah.
The 6 points are here.
Yeah. Well, number one.
If you give me time to read those points, they're here. They're here.
No, educate Kenyans.
Let me educate.
You have the platform.
Organs.
A very important.
Okay, as I get the 6 points, I'm getting it down now.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought they were offered.
No, they are not. They are okay. Well,
legislators don't read. They
this is a communication, because I'm talking to Kenya.
Manzo, one of the most difficult things in this country today is to defend this administration.
No, I will give you the point.
As a legislator, even the regulations of parliament, you don't read.
Okay, there are 6 points. One of the points. I'll get it out.
You mentioned it earlier anyway.
One of the points is that there is corruption. It is Homa.
No, he wants him to read. He doesn't want him to read. What should he do now?
Give me time. Because, it is not about bombarding everything. Because I've got the facts. I can read the facts to you. I'll share you the document.
Okay.
I'll read the document. Please give me time to read the document, because I'll get it out here.
Yeah.
It is out here, and it's important that I read.
Where are you getting it from?
I get it from State House, because I research, and I find that there was a meeting. I need to know. I need to know.
Is it a website?
I need to know what is coming.
I think as Manzo speaks, maybe you can be looking at Manzo.
Let Manzo say something.
Yeah, let's talk about something else. Manzo, is there a split in the opposition? Because there's a front page here that Raila Party supported. Is there a split in the opposition right now? Is there an issue of succession there?
No, I don't think that is happening right now. What is happening is that political parties are registering members, and that's what ODM do. ODM is going through its strongholds, registering as many people as it can get to ODM, and similarly, that's what we're also doing as a coalition party. So we've not had a meeting whereby we have decided Raila and the ODM go this way, Kalonzo and Wiper go this way. No.
But your
as Neo as a coalition is still a coalition.
Your party leader, Kalonzo Musyoka, is talking about being president. Eugene Wamalwa is talking about being president. Raila Odinga himself he says that it's no time for that conversation, but the truth is it's being had. We all know this. So is there a split?
No. You know, presidential candidature nomination, he has his own timeline, and there is a time it is done. And there's nothing wrong with anybody expressing their ambitions. There's nothing wrong with the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka's ambition or Eugene Wamalwa's ambition. Raila's ambition has not yet been communicated. It is we'll come to that particular point as a coalition and decide who is our flag bearer. I know some Kenyans really want to push us to identify that early enough, but it will have its own time.
Ekuru, are you seeing an open campaign now, season? In this country.
In fact,
is it even right that we're talking about this conversation? Who's succeeding who? And it is on both sides. We've had
this
one of the most Kenya Kwanza side that Ndindi Nyoro needs to come in and the president downplaying that conversation.
It is one of the most disappointing things about the leadership in our country, that we never stop to campaign. You have a government that came on a lot of promises, and I'm sure Lotte will defend this government and so will Ondieki. So many promises, but almost 1-2 years down the line, they are back on the campaign. Actually, in fact, they never stopped campaigning. William Ruto now, Rigathi Gachagua, Ndindi Nyoro, Mani Ichung'wah, you will see them on top of Kazias, like on the campaign. Meaning, confirming actually, they never even had any plan at all. Yeah. For example, when you talk about corruption, let me just raise one quick issue, Trevor. There is a very thorny issue in this country. You have a government that says, we will create jobs for Kenyans abroad. But I want to relate that to a practical problem. Passport, the acquisition of passport, which is a constitutional right prescribed in Article 12 of our Constitution. Today, a Kenyan will apply for a passport, pay 4,500 or 7,500, but they will be asked for a bribe. We will be told there are no booklets. Then why do you charge me the cost of producing that passport? While at the same time, you have a government that is promoting sending Kenyans abroad. How does a Kenyan go abroad if you cannot provide them with passports? How can a Kenyan go abroad to go look for that job when they are being told, LIPA, I think we can only produce, I think, 30 booklets per day? Honestly, this is not a serious government. Okay. And on the question of the opposition, I don't think we have opposition. We have a very compromised opposition. As a matter of fact, I mean, the truth be told, I know Mahanza will try to sugarcoat this, but these people are in government. In fact, the so-called Azimio was bought a long time ago by UDA, as early as February last year, actually. So in
this, you have evidence. You're the one who has evidence. On all allegations.
Yes.
Who alleges?
Let me come back.
Let me tell you.
Let me weigh in on this point.
I can tell you one of the evidence.
He alleges
the bogus bomber stocks. That was all just
report.
That was just narco report. That was just choreographed to manage the bases, so that the idea was that for us to be able to work together, we have to present to the nation something that looks plausible.
Okay.
And that's why even the outcome of that bomber stocks, and Mahanza here will confirm.
Trevor.
Before I come to you, let's just get a direct response.
What
been bought by
has happened with bomber stocks is that there's a report which is yet to be...
And that's where the split began.
There's a report which is going to be debated by the House. And you can see clearly every proposal from the bombers' proposals goes towards a referendum, that all those issues raised are referendable issues. And therefore, it will have to go back to the public through the proper channel.
So what about the cost of living? No, the cost of living.
Well, cost of living is one of the key issues. It can only be managed if the government agrees to reduce the cost of fuel. That is what is bringing all the problem with the high cost.
See, Trevor, that's where the lie is.
Bought.
Sorry?
Yes.
Has your coalition been bought?
It has.
Our coalition has not been bought.
Trevor, let me tell you.
Confirm.
You say it.
How much was it bought?
Today,
Yes.
They look both.
Yes.
Azimio is dead. We are only trying to look at a person that is dead, but putting on a face that looks like he's alive. Azimio is completely dead.
Was it bought? Was it bought?
What you've confirmed is that Azimio, there's something you said.
Trevor.
Just say what you said again. You said
let me say
Azimio
something.
was already taken in by UDA. Look at the Jubilee wing of the coalition.
Yes.
Gone.
Yeah.
Look at the other wings of the coalition. They are all gone. They were not bought. They just decided because they look at an unfortunate situation within the Azimio. I was part of the Azimio. This was an unfortunate situation. You can already see that they are dead.
So you are bought?
They are fighting. No, I was not bought. I looked at the unfortunate situation of the coalition and I decided, just like the other colleagues, let's go to the fortunate situation. It is not because of the fact that we are bought. It is the fact that Azimio was going to die and Azimio is dead as we speak today. They do not read from the same page. They are only sugarcoating, and Kenyans will very soon see that we are dealing with an Azimio that's dead.
So at the time you were leaving, what made you leave?
I left because Azimio was not organized as an opposition. Because basically you will hear today, even when sitting in this debate, the real role of an opposition is to keep the government in check. But if you listen to Azimio properly, what they are doing is they're trying to play politics of 2027. And the reason why they are splitting, they are not keeping the government on check. They are looking at who is going to become the presidential candidate. And because the opposition cannot do its role, I decided, then let me join the government that is doing its role in delivering to Kenyans what we are saying.
Let me remind these guys. We used to back in high school. I don't know. We used to read a book called Things Fall Apart.
Yeah.
Chinua Achebe in Things Fall Apart says, a toad does not run in broad daylight for no reason at all.
Yeah.
There's a very reason why Mheshimiwa Lote left Azimio. There's every reason why Ondieki, and I'm happy that he'll respond immediately, is busy organizing Southern Nyanza for UDA.
Trevor, let me tell you.
Is developing.
For me, I don't like being philosophical, but sometimes I'm forced to, especially when you see people who pretend to be in love with facts. I'm not even in love with them after all. Dr. Kuro Aukot claims to be in love with facts when those pieces of facts favor him.
I don't claim I am.
And when he makes an allegation, and he's the one who said, he who alleges has a duty to prove, and he alleges that Azimio has been bought, and he cannot prove it. So it is just a matter of pinky-ponky game, which was said by that person, that viewer. I want to respond on something. The truth is that Azimio is finished. That is why you will see ODM are busy on their own. Wiper is busy doing nothing as we speak. In fact, they are not having membership drive. They are not having anything. NARC Kenya is not doing anything. In fact, it's only ODM. And that ODM is only busy because of one reason. And let me make it clear on this national TV. ODM is only busy because they have realized that the little zones they have has already been taken, or is seriously and quickly being taken over by UDA. And so that's why they went back to the membership drive. I'm speaking the truth. This is a fact which I can prove with timelines, because when there was serious membership drive of UDA in Nyanza region, that is when they came back and started. In fact, the first time I saw Raila Odinga pointing a tablet on how to become a member of ODM, because they presumed that once a Luo, a member of ODM. So they realized that the Luos are waking up and there's a serious paradigm shift. And so they have gone back to protect the little which they have, because they have already lost a lot that they don't even want to lose the little Nyanza as well. So that's the big problem. It's not that they are keeping the government in check. Finally on that, we have an opposition which is clueless, planless, visionless.
Just like the government.
They don't have anything.
Just like the government.
When you're looking at, when you're telling somebody that you are blind, and you are terribly blind, like the opposition, they can't. That's why they keep on running after the government. They look at what the government has said, tomorrow they respond. They can never say anything before it happens. They are talking about G&G today because the government has talked about it. They are talking about everything only when it has happened. They are talking about a meeting when the meeting has happened in State House. They only, I don't know what they act after. They are never proactive. Yeah. So this is an opposition which is finished. In fact, as the president said in his speech of the State of the Nation, the opposition which has no any proposal. The other time they called for talks in Bomas. Actually, they proposed nothing, only to come out of that place complaining and fighting themselves. In fact, they are more divided than even the opposition is divided from the government.
That you raised the G2G issue, because what it was supposed to do was to stabilize the Kenya shilling.
Exactly.
We are seeing here that what shilling free fall means.
It's very sensitive.
That a straight up failure.
No,
failure.
It is not a failure. In fact, opposition like the Third Way Alliance,
something that has failed.
The Third Way Alliance, being an opposition, just as Azimio, they will only talk about its failure. They don't look at how it was to help the country and why the president,
considering that the shilling is,
Trevor,
it was to stabilize the Kenyan shilling.
Let's remind him of
stabilize the shilling.
Yeah, in fact, I responded based on the question as to the existence or non-existence of the opposition. In fact, this one is the same. In fact, Third Way Allowance is the same as
allowance. No. You see what people view here? They're just based on, they're used to allowances.
There's nothing that...
But listen, let me remind him a fact. They're just the same. Let me remind him a fact.
Yeah.
In 2022, on the campaign trail, President William Ruto said that he will reduce the dollar, I mean the relation between the dollar and the to about, he will stabilize it.
Yeah.
It keeps on going. In fact, if you see now the projection now that the dollar will be at about 230 to the shilling. 236 Kenya shillings to the dollar even by next year. There is no communication whatsoever about how this dollar is actually being stabilized. And you know, Trevor, we have said before here, and I think I want to quote the senator for Nairobi, Honorable Edwin Sifuna.
Yeah.
Whenever we came here to discuss the state of the nation, Sifuna has always said, and I think this is wisdom, that the state of the nation is about the state of the people, the individual. Mwanzo here will tell you, and even Ondieki, and okay, all of us who have that experience, when a Kenyan asks you, just give me 500 shillings, and for basic needs. Basic needs. Nobody's asking you, give me 1,000 shillings because I want to go and drink some changa or rubusa or whatever. They ask you for 500 bob, 1,000 to buy food, to buy medicine. Basic things that actually enhance dignity of a human being. You can't tell me in a country like that where the state of the person is so dire, is based on big, small things, that the economy is stable. Okay. It's not.
All right. Lotte, is this an indication of a failure of the government
to
stabilize the economy? Free fall of the shilling.
One, let's look at the factors that has actually brought the free fall of the shilling before we say whether it's a failure or not. But I'll tell you, it is not the failure. It is the global view. I've actually been looking at the African currencies vis-a-vis the dollar. In 2023, Kenya is not even beaten like many other African countries. Kenya is beaten at around 27% of the decline. But if you go to countries, some West African countries, you get them falling, the dollar falling by up to 54%. That basically means it's a global event. But before I go that, Trevor, there is something that had been given as an assignment. Because I was told that I need to say this communique, if you can allow me a little bit, so that it goes into record. I'll come back to that.
I'd like to know where
no, it's good. This communique was actually done on the 20th.
Can we verify this?
Yeah, it is there.
Signed by who?
It is signed by Hussein Mohammed, MBS State House spokesman.
Okay.
And this is what it says.
I thought it should have been signed by the president and the
No, that is the spokesman. That is the reason why we've got systems in government.
You asked
not
him
the president to sign.
Okay,
asked me to read. And it should not be the president to sign.
Please do.
Well, it says today, at the request of the judiciary, the president convened leadership of the executive, legislature, and the judiciary. Then it goes on like that. But these are the points. It was agreed that, one, corruption remained as an essential threat to the nation, which has permeated the three arms of government, undermining our country. Okay, let me do that in
technology.
Quickly. No, it is. Undermining, permeated the three arms of government, undermining our country's tremendous development potential and sabotaging the much-needed transformation in our nation. That is one thing. And one of the reasons why we even talk about the shilling falling is because there are people corrupt who are holding dollars. Yeah, that is one. And so when we are addressing corruption, we are also addressing the stabilization of our shilling. 2, each of the 3 arms of government commits to enhance service delivery, fight corruption, and promote the overall administrative justice to enhance accountability to the people of Kenya.
Yes.
3, the executive, legislature, and the judiciary agree to individually develop policies, guidelines, regulations, and legislative proposals to achieve this objective. Let me not read the whole of it. And 4, within 30 days, each arm of government will submit the proposal made to a forum of the National Council of the Administrative Justice, convened by our leadership, the Chief Justice. The forum will provide a roadmap for immediate, mid-term, and long-term measures to be undertaken. 5, optimize the efficiency of service delivery, and to fight against corruption, the executive and the legislature will support the judiciary with the request additional budget to support the achievement, among others, 1, to facilitate the recruitment of 25 judges of the High Court, 2, to facilitate the recruitment of 11 new judges of the Court of Appeal, and 3, resources will also be provided to conclude the FECO leasing program to facilitate the judiciary transport needs. And 6, the executive, legislature, and judiciary commit to perform their function in a manner that respects, promotes, and enhances the rule of law, institutional independence, and the respect of court decisions.
Yes.
Very important.
That's
very, very important. And so that basically tells you that there's a document you are not aware. I'll share it to you.
No, this was shared.
It is a document.
You are aware of
this
was shared.
If you are aware,
not news.
If it's not news, you are telling us you are the ones.
Still on the Hussein Mohammed.
You are the ones that are telling us that it is not made public. Now you're saying
Trevor,
it is shared.
can I raise a very fundamental question?
Why are you trying?
Let me raise a very fundamental question related to the dollar and the Kenya shilling. You see. In some countries where economy of a country can collapse is because of introducing double currency. I'm not an economist, but I will tell you our preoccupation to discuss the dollar as opposed to the Kenya shilling, which is, we are a shilling economy, we're not a dollar economy. And these excuses of, oh, it's global, this global, that other countries are handling their economic situation, differently from ours. And the more we keep on, comparing ourselves with, Americas, with the other countries, the more we are admitting we are not able to fix our own problem. Remember, this is a government, and okay, I don't think Lotte was initially connected to it, but I think he has jumped camp now. That, this is a government that actually came with a plan. And I've said it in this show a couple of times. And it still has a plan. Hopefully, I hope so.
The plan is still alive.
I hope it is there. But this is a government led by one person who I've said repeatedly is the longest serving elected politician in this country. From 1997, William Ruto has never lost an election.
Sure.
He's the longest. Meaning, and he has also held very key positions in government. He has been a deputy president of this country for 10 years in what they are now vilifying as a failed Jubilee administration, yet they were there. So they really ought to know exactly where the problem in this country is. And with the benefit of doubt, we gave it to them. But now to keep on coming telling us, or compare ourselves with country X, Kenya, honestly, is unfortunate. We are increasingly being disrespected even in the region. By the time Sudan withdraws its envoy, DRC Congo, Uganda takes us to the East African Court. And I was in Burundi last December in the East African Law Society conference. And on the side shows, people are saying, what's wrong with you Kenyans? You've lost the plot. The truth for the matter, we can pretend about it. Tanzania has no respect for us. Other countries in the region do not respect us anymore. It's because of the kind of leadership that we have. So I think the sooner, and I want to agree with what Maanzo said, there's nothing wrong with apologizing that you misled Kenyans, or saying at least we made a mistake. We can recalibrate ourselves, our plan, and say, okay, I think we thought we will do A, B, C, D, but now I think we can change course. Only a fool doesn't change his mind.
Okay.
Yeah?
All right.
And this thing's insistence on that we are on the right path.
Yeah.
We are doing this. And the politics, we are just politicking too much than actually addressing the problems that Kenyans are facing.
Okay. Manzo, is this an indication of a failed state, or is this global pressures like what Lotte is saying?
It's not really a matter of global pressure. The cost of fuel has gone down all over. In Germany, it's stabilized. in Rwanda is 199 Kenyan shillings. It's never gone beyond that. So what has happened is we have disorganized ourselves and blamed others. We had the G2G, which failed. You know, they thought fuel prices would be stabilized by that government-to-government deal, which was not well calculated. And again, as I've said before, if something has gone wrong and there was miscalculation or misadvice, let's own it so that we can correct it and move to the next level. So there is a lot of things going wrong in the country, a lot of corruption. A few individuals have been prosecuted, but quite a number of people who have acquired the property corruptly have not owned up or have not returned it to the states. So we have an internal problem, and most of it is politicking, overdoing politics, weakening government institutions, the judiciary, parliament, and the executive itself. Government institutions should remain very strong. The parliament should remain with its independence, judiciary the same, and then we should respect decisions which come from the courts. And if you are not happy with the decision, then quickly appeal. If you are unhappy with a judge, don't just make, sweeping statements.
Yeah.
Deal with that particular judge individually.
Okay. There's something I want us to talk about before we wind up on this conversation, unless there's something you want to bring up.
Well, I think one of the things I wanted to say, wanted to say something about the falling shilling, but also to correct two things. We can never pretend to say that we are not global in terms of our trade. We are trading. And the global currency now is the dollar. And the reason why Chinese were trying to ensure that they are also having their yen to become a global currency. But as we speak now, just to tell
Japan doesn't trade with the dollar.
Yeah, they never.
Germany doesn't trade with the dollar. The UK doesn't trade with the dollar.
Now, Trevor, are they saying that Kenya should not trade in dollar?
Let me say something. Because when you go globally, you don't take your Kenyan shillings.
No, but
the respected currency out there.
Global.
And the reason why the president himself said, let us change our... Actually, the president said what you said. You're actually picking from him. That let us change the dollar economy so that we can start speaking about another currency. The president said that. That basically means he's ahead of you.
He doesn't practice
in terms, he's ahead of you in terms of that. He cannot just wake up. He cannot just wake up and start doing
preaches water but drinks wine.
Give me your quote. Dr.
I should correct.
Let me say something.
No, the president wanted an African dollar.
When I speak, these people are pricked. When I speak, you are pricked. The thing is, we have to say that we think that's a discussions for tomorrow.
Yeah.
The dollar is exactly what we are using to exchange. And I told you, I have actually been comparing African countries vis-a-vis the dollar in 2023. And Kenya is not as badly beaten like many other countries. Those countries are not fools to also trade on the dollar, because when they are buying, they are importing. They are actually using the dollar. And the reason why, there is a lot of demand for the dollar. And I want to say, when you look at what the ODM chair, Mbadi said, he said, it is because of the demands of the dollar. The dollar is being demanded. Let me just say, let me speak. Yeah. Manzo said, fuel in Rwanda is, I have got a picture. I was in Rwanda in December. Yeah. And good enough, this is it for Kenyans to see. This is a petrol station in Rwanda called Kabiza. It was going at 1639 diesel, premium, and diesel is 1635. Do that to Kenya shillings. It is 235. 235. Get an exchange. Get. Okay, good. Get it. I was in Rwanda. It is important that I took that photograph. I was in Uganda. I was in Uganda in Mbale in October. I also got a photograph of the same. You can take it and let Kenyans see. The fuel in Uganda at an exchange rate of 25 is actually going at 127 when Kenya is going at it is going at 227 when Kenya is going at 211. So to tell people that fuel in Rwanda, when I've got a picture of a petrol station here, is wrong.
What exchange rate are you using?
What exchange rate?
Get it.
I wanted to weigh in on this dollar thing.
I've not finished.
Exchange rate is daily.
I've got evidence.
When I look at my comments here, everybody's saying Mweshimwe is just lying.
No, I'm not lying. Those are people. Okay. I have got evidence. Facts are stubborn, and the fact is there.
Just a simple question.
Yes.
Is the Rwandese franc stronger than the Kenya shilling?
No. It is not.
So if it's 16 shillings...
It is 16. It is 1,637.
Okay.
Yes.
Current exchange. Trevor, I wanted to weigh in on this dollar question.
Yes.
I am also not an economist, but I have done a little of economics. One, if you are trading on dollar, it will fluctuate depending on the global fluctuation. Just like when you want to fly any airline, it will always depend on timing. If you want to fly to Kisumu, you may buy your ticket in the morning, someone buys it mid-morning, the prices will be different. The problem is demand on dollar. And when there's high demand on dollar, it causes pressure on it. And when that pressure is high, it is affected in terms of the rates. Number two, there's international lending rates, and also the percentiles which are given in terms of the dollar operations. They are affected, and Kenya cannot be excluded. I want to make my seniors, I respect the seniors, but also I wish just they could be honest opposition. You see, if you are a honest opposition, it's not only poking holes. There are certain things, Mbadi talked about it, and for the first time I can say Honorable John Mbadi spoke the truth as per what is happening, that the dollar situation in the country can only change if we increase our export production so that we can stabilize our dollar. And that is what the president is talking about, production aggregation zones, so that we can have a lot of EPZs to make production, so that we can sell more than we buy. Okay. So the most important thing...
I have a question for these UDA fellows.
Let me just conclude with this so that we can go into another matter. That the government is trying to stabilize dollar. The only challenge is this. There are people who are holding dollar. And I think the people who are shouting too much about the dollar problem are keeping it, are holding it.
Okay.
Are holding it. And that's a fact.
Right.
We are only waiting for central bank to report to us who are these fellows who are holding dollar. But if they can release it, it will come back to the market. Demand will be low, just in the principle of demand and supply.
I think this is because of holding. Okay, let me bring Lotte on one thing. Lotte, how much was that money for Rwandese franc?
I'm actually getting...
the picture?
This picture was 1,637.
1,637.
Yes.
The current exchange rate is 7 shillings.
It is exchange rate of that
so it's
particular
around
day.
233.
Yes,
yeah, but the exchange rate differs every day.
Tell him. 233 now. And then let me tell you now. Okay, let me come back.
I had a question.
Now that you have proved that it is 233. 233 in Rwanda is not cheaper than in Kenya. Than like what the senator said. So it is globally. It is globally. I can prove it. It is here. You can take it as a photograph that I took it myself. Two.
Are you saying Kenya's economy? You want to compare Kenya's economy and
we are not comparing Kenyan economy to Rwanda. I'm actually proving a fact.
But they have been saying that fuel is cheaper in those countries, and they are being told the fuel is expensive. Proof now
that fuel is not cheaper in Rwanda, like they're saying. The same to Uganda. I can prove to you. I took a photograph of the same.
Is a question.
The picture was taken in December 11th.
Okay, now
the one that I took
the exchange rate changes every day.
Okay,
I know. Even that time it was worse because I did the exchange rate myself.
I have a question.
All right. Yes.
Now,
Lotte, I have a question for you and Ondieki. The closest I came to agreeing with William Ruto when he speaks about the shilling vis-a-vis the dollar was when he made this speech. I don't know. I'm trying to remember whether it was in the either UN or wherever it was anyway. And he said that we need to rethink about the idea of us trading with the dollar. Why can't we strengthen our own local currencies?
Yeah.
And let me tell you, a lot of African countries and people all bought into that idea. And actually, they have bought into the idea because they began to see our president as a Pan-Africanist who really wants to strengthen the use of our local currencies. But the question I want to ask you, after that speech, which was very, promissory, but of course we are not surprised with your promises because you always give promises which you never fulfill anyway. After that very promising speech, what steps can you say the government has since taken to ensure that we strengthen the Kenya shilling and reduce the talk about the dollar as if the dollar is our currency? It's not our currency. The ordinary Kenyan does not deal in dollars. You know, when you're talking about global trading, how many people really in this country can say globally trade? we still have a situation where I bank in Kenya shillings, but if you say I want to buy a spare part for my car, I'm being charged in dollars. How is government cushioning me from that kind of expense? And this is a policy decision, Mheshimiwa Lote. So it's not just enough to tell us that, oh, the global this and global. Tell us the steps that the government has since taken to ensure that you pursue that pronouncement that we need to strengthen our shillings, we need to trade in our shillings.
Okay.
Even
I can take it quickly before Lote comes in.
The proposal was an African shilling or an African currency, like European currency, you know, the euro.
The euro,
as
the number of countries, yes.
Yeah, he was thinking of, in terms of having an African currency.
Yes.
Like an African shilling or something like that, or come up with a name.
But now the question, Manzo...
Is it fair to place that on the president's doorstep, considering...
It's not fair.
He's the one who began with, he's the one who started it.
If we're going to go African, that is now, we're talking about an entire continent.
Yes.
His pronouncements...
Trevor,
is it fair
to... After visiting German...
This has to be bilateral.
After visiting German, he was advised one of the things you could do as Africans is to come up with our own currency, like the union, like the European Union with a European currency.
What I'm saying is it fair to blame President William Ruto?
That's why I want to...
The question is, what has he done to even for the shilling, or even to arrive at that African currency?
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I need them to explain, because these are government standards. I want them to say to us, after that pronouncement, as the president even held, say, bilateral meetings, say, with the neighbors, other countries, and say, okay, guys, I think we are thinking about strengthening the African. You see, like the way, let me just draw a parallel. Like if you look at the coup d'etats in West Africa, Francophone Africa, look at Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, and the rest. I like the language that's coming from them. Not that I like idea of coups, but I like the language that's coming from them. They are talking about ending imperialism, exporting natural resources out, Africa's natural resources outside. They're talking about the unity of Africa. So I want to say, on the same note, when the president made this very flowery and very, interesting statement, has he taken any steps?
Trevor. Let me. But you are asking the question too long. That it doesn't even get into answer.
I'm giving you latitude.
What I'm saying, the truth of the matter, Trevor, it has to be known. And Kenyans on this national platform should know that as of December last year, comparatively, in 3 countries of Eastern Africa, Rwanda fuel was 233, as you have calculated. Kenya was 211. It has now reduced. Kenya has reduced. Uganda is 227. I don't know whether it has reduced. So that is comparative study. Someone can do. And I would also advise our media houses, why can't you just take a walk? You can sponsor someone to go all Africa, to check dollar in West Africa, to check dollar in everywhere, and then check fuel in all those places, so that we can confirm what Raila Odinga said on 22nd of July 2022, when he was flagged with Martha Karua. When he was asked about the cost of living, he said that is a global problem and cannot be solved as an individual state. So you will realize that is actually global. But as to the dollar question, the president is struggling to ensure that it stabilizes our economy by ensuring production. That's why there's establishment of EPZs, aggregation zones. We want to boost production so that we can sell more in exports than to receive more on imports. Dr. Okot was talking about...
anything in this country.
Dr. Okot was talking about Kenyan who is trading on 500 shillings, Kenya shillings. He will buy a mtumba. That Kenyan will buy a mtumba at 250 shillings, and that mtumba has been imported. If we can control and reduce the cost of such importation so that Kenyans can buy local in that which will have very little duty without importation costs, then we are going to stabilize our economy.
Not when you are overtaxing Kenyans.
Yes.
Okay. Not when you are overtaxing Kenyans.
The tax in Kenya is even less than several states.
We're running out of time here, but I want us to talk about one more topic here. Well, there's a report from the Public Service Commission continuing to display evidence of skewed appointments. We know that in fact, they said that 2 ethnic communities are the leading, that is Kalenjin and Kikuyu. The Kikuyu and the Kalenjin communities topped the charts, classified as grossly overrepresented, meaning the numbers exceeded their recorded national size. Afuata followed closely by Kisii and Luo communities, termed as overrepresented. And Manzo, I'll start with you on this. Is this a problem of politics of ethnicity and exclusion, or is it a matter of the numbers in terms of probability? That the numbers, since the population is skewed towards people who are more majority, you're likely to find more of them appointed? Or is it just politics of ethnicity and exclusion? And how do you deal with such?
Yes, first I want to state this as a politics of ethnicity, and you know what has happened is that it has been skewed so that we have such numbers. We have statistics in this country, and we would have gone by, you know, it will be showing from the biggest community to the smallest community, the proportions and how they have participated and how they have been hired in government, so that we do not have a disadvantaged community in the country, and one which has taken a lion's share, including taking share of the smaller communities. Of course, the government employment, it should not be the main source of employment in this country. If we have industrialization going on and investments in the country, then many more people will be hired, you know, differently across the country, and there will be fairness in that manner. So it should not be everybody should not be looking to government, either county government or national government, for employment, but we should look at other opportunities and job creation in the country indiscriminately. Somebody has argued that even if you go to the mortuaries, you will find the same proportions, you know, of the death rates. But when it comes to employment, I think that, you know, those two communities have been longer in government and having strategic people in government, they have tended to take more shares from, or more positions from other smaller tribes. We should even be encouraging the smallest tribe in the country to shine and to participate in nation building just like the big tribes.
Okay.
Trevor, I'll say,
yes.
Two things comes to mind. Of course, that report reminds us of what Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua himself said, that the government of the day is actually a company. They are shareholders into it. So we can't run away from that statement. It's unfortunate that now the report actually shows, yes, indeed, and somehow confirms what Dan Mahanzo is saying. Yes, there are population variations between the various ethnic communities. But I also know one of the realities in our country today is that if you are people from a certain region or a certain tribe seeking an opportunity in government, it becomes so difficult to get those opportunities because of the people who have been controlling these institutions or in charge of this institution over a long period of time. So I would say there is unconscious bias in giving Kenyans opportunities. Chances are very high that a Kikuyu or a Luo in charge of a certain institution looking at an application for coming from a Kikuyu or a Luo vis-a-vis a Turkana or a Pokot, the chances are very high that they will consider people from their ethnic grouping. And I think this mindset is also ingrained in Kenyans' mind. That's why you will hear things like, it's our time. This is our time to govern. The idea basically is that once we take over control of institutions of government, then we will be able to what? To favor our regions. Ondieki will tell you the reason why he is now running around South Nyanza trying to make it yellow is because he will say, you know, we want to bring development to our people. As if development is actually something you beg. It's your right. So I think unfortunately, it is ethnic, but it's also the character of our politics and also the character of the way in which we've been governed over a long period of time.
And not population, because we're talking about the big four tribes. It's a Kalenjin, Kikuyu, Kisii, and the Luo.
As I've said, population may be a factor, proportionately, yes. The most populous communities will always find themselves more popular, like Manzo said, you know, light touch. Even if you go to the mortuary, the morgue, you probably find many people from the most populous community in those morgues. But you need to look at the history of the governance of our country. Who has been in control of institutions, of government or departments in this country? And like I said, there is also that unconscious bias. Perhaps people do not mean to say that when I see an application from a Turkana or a Samburu or a Rendile, I will not consider it. But I think there is that unconscious bias that Mutietu. Because that Mutietu mentality is also in our politics. That's why, you know, in Luo Nyanza, for example, and I'm just poking on the here, the 5 MPs use a very wrong narrative to say that we are associating the president because we want to bring development to our people. It's so wrong. Because, and that's the kind of politics we need to run away from.
Yeah.
Development should be equitable.
Okay.
And like I was telling Ondieki yesterday, and unfortunately I was with him in another show yesterday, and I was telling Ondieki, when we did the 2010 Constitution, the 47 counties were deliberately, and we debated this a lot because we looked at the Provinces and Districts Act of 1992.
Yeah.
And so which is the easiest way to equitably develop Kenya? And that's why we compromised on the 47 counties, not because we wanted all those 47 counties, but we thought, let it be a conveyor belt, because we come from the background where, during KANU's time, we were told, kama huko KANU, hakuna maendeleo. So people were begging for bridges, people were begging. I mean, Loteia will tell him, me and him, we come from the northern, the Kenya of the north. For a long time, we will, even our people now will call until habari ya Kenya. I mean, you're in Nairobi, they're in Kenya. So there was that disconnect. But because of that politics, historical politics, that's why reports like this one make a lot of sense, that, yes, appears
the tribes still have,
Trevor, you ask a very good question, but you allow Daktari to take it out of context. In fact, you should advise Daktari, being a party leader, sometimes he needs to call his press conference to address some of these things. Because you asked a very good question on employment. And now he takes it back to different things. As the Honorable Manzo said it, it's true that the tribal groups, which are actually large in numbers, will have the larger appearance. It's a matter of probability. Sometimes we allow probability to take course. Even if you take Royal Media, you will find that if you look at, this is a private entity. But you will find a Luo here, you will find a Luya here, you will find, depending on the population, you will find many Luos are here. And also depending on stations, you will find many ethnic groups. And this is not a government institution, this is a private institution. I also want to add that the situation of employment is not instantaneous. If the Public Service Commission gave a report, they gave a report of even people who are almost retiring. Ruto, the president of the day, William Ruto, came to power the other day. You cannot say that this government is the one that has skewed such kind of employment. That one defines that the systemic nature of our challenges that we have. So these are people who were employed long time ago. The statistics are given at different times. So you cannot just equate that to the current governance structure. And on my humble submission in respect of that, we need to look at more of how the government can facilitate employment opportunities instead of just creating it, because the government has no capacity to do that very quickly. Look at the number of people graduating from our institutions of higher learning, tertiary colleges, and the rest. The population graduating yearly is very high, but how many factories do we put in place yearly? How many universities do we build yearly? How many schools do we build yearly? The number of graduates coming out of our institutions are more than what we can absorb. And that is why I really find it, get worried when serious scholars and serious people fault the government by creating other opportunities outside the country, because we just don't have that natural capacity and even current capacity to employ all of them. So I am humbly seeking this, that there are certain people who have been given chances because of their disadvantage.
Give them passport first.
Yeah, disadvantaged people, you know, the marginalized community have always been taken care of. Even now we are going to take an NYS here. If you look at the requirements there, orphans and those who are disabled are given higher priority so that they can have opportunities which others may have not had. So this is a systemic problem and it cannot be associated with this current government. And I think that we can just be more honest when we are debating on such matters.
But then, true, you have a point there, but let's talk about Article 232 of the 2010 Constitution, which demands that the public service must be representative of the diverse Kenyan communities with adequate and equal opportunity in appointment, training, and growth at all levels of public service, not leaving behind persons with disabilities. How do you achieve that? Especially the equal part.
You know, I think it should have not been equal, but it should be equity. There should be equity, because there can never be equality. There is only need, we can only get equity. That is, if there is a group that is marginalized, they are given opportunity. Like initially, the Kenya Somalis were said to be marginalized. Now they are almost the ones who are getting the greatest opportunity, and they have it. So persons with disability are given opportunity. In fact, initially women are the ones who are marginalized until women got empowered more than men. In fact, now boy child is more threatened than girl child. So you realize that the current status of the country, just like the two-third gender rule in different sectors of government, it's really a difficult thing. It's not a mirage, but it's really difficult to achieve. Okay. Some of these things might not be perfectly achieved, but I believe that if systems and structures are well put in place, then they can be 95% or 97% achieved.
Deliberate policy.
It's not current government mistake.
Okay.
Yeah, so that opposition will start running around with it, colleges and Luos and Kikuyus. No, but it is not this government. Trevor. This is a public service report which involves 60 years. Because somebody is employed, they stay in job for more than 30 years.
Trevor.
Yes.
You know, I wish I could do more shows with Ondieki so that we try to persuade him to just shift his mindset from this idea. Because you are associated with the government of the day, you just defend it blindly. Yeah. I think the truth be told, there is a correlation between opportunities for all Kenyans and whoever is in charge of government. That is. Whether historically or not, it's a fact. And that's why you will hear people say, oh, it's our time. We want one of our own. Which is really a very misleading conception. Because it doesn't matter. Mheshimiwa here will tell you, his salary doesn't share his salary with all his constituents or even people from his clan. And the first beneficiaries of his salary are his immediate family members. Yeah. But there's this warped notion that when we have, say, Trevor Ombija, all the Luos now will be comfortable. I never see now, I don't see Kalenjins lining up in State House because William Ruto is the president. I never saw Kikuyus line up in State House because Uhuru Kenyatta was the president. So I think there is honestly that correlation. And I think the more we debate about this, so we can actually achieve the philosophy in Article 232 of the Constitution. There has to be, yes, I agree with Ondieki, equality is an ideal situation, but equity is something we can practice.
So when you were drafting the Constitution, how did you envision this? Did you think it would be cured by the counties only?
So I'll give you an example using Article 130, the National Executive. Yeah. When we were debating that article, we felt that historically, Kenyans were feeling that whoever comes in as president will overload the executive with his people. Even the nominations to parliament with his tribe, which was actually a fact. So we said, let's cure this. And that's how we came up with the idea of a cabinet of a maximum of 22. Remember that time, we had 44 tribes. I think when the Indian community was, or the Indian community came much later, before the Makonde and the rest. So the idea for us was, Kenya was in the cusp of renewal. Remember, we just came from the post-election violence of 2007, 2008. And we felt that because of this thing was traumatic, because I think the first time Kenyans, we saw experience such kind of magnitude of killing from a political process. So we felt the 22 cabinet positions will go to 22 different tribes. The next batch of appointment, which is the principal secretaries, will go to another different tribes in Kenya, so that you meet the national outlook. Yeah. Because read Article 130, what does it say? The cabinet must reflect the regional and ethnic diversity of the people of Kenya. Yeah. And that's the vision we had. And therefore, you really felt that we need to have, say, a leadership, a president, who will then look at Kenya and say, these are all my children. I don't want to be seen that I'm loading my tribe into the cabinet. Yeah. And that's why you see the question of, for example, how many Kalenjins are in cabinet, how many Kikuyus are in cabinet, it's an issue because Kenyans are feeling the executive is not really looking at all of us equitably.
Okay. Lote,
all permanent secretaries are almost from one tribe.
Okay.
Yes, and CEOs of parastatals.
And CEOs of parastatals from one tribe.
Well, I cannot say more than what the other panelists have said in terms of the report. Yeah. But to agree to it that the report has actually brought to light some of the things that Kenyans need to look at. And I agree totally that the reports talk about the Kikuyus, the Kalenjins being the majority, followed by the Luos and the Luyas, that the Kisis. Yeah. If you look at the Luos, and then the Kisis, they actually form close to the opposition, and basically they are still in government. And if you look at the Kalenjins and the Kikuyus, the majority, they are in government. So it basically means that it cuts across both the ruling and the opposition. That is for a fact. And if you look again at the census, the population of these particular 4 communities are also the majority in terms of numbers. So for me, it is a little bit fair, apart from the fact that Article 232 of the Constitution needs to be looked at. And I think this has come for, and the president needs to look at the report. I will not say that this was formed overnight. It actually has been building up over a period of time. Yeah. What Ndiekia said and what Aukota said, Dr. Akura Aukota said, is that now it is upon the government, the executive, and I think the President William Ruto is very keen to this. He actually said that during the recruitment of the military, they'll take them from the NYS. Yeah. And you look at the recruitment of the NYS, it actually captures a lot of things, including persons with disabilities, including the minority. That basically means we're already transitioning. The president is looking at that Article 232 of the Constitution, yep. And I'll ask the executive. It's my appeal to everybody that makes decisions in terms of employment, to look at the smaller tribes, who might not even make it to the percentages. I looked at the initial report before this one. Yeah. There's a community that only had one person in the civil society, in the civil service, telling you that this community will continually be marginalized. So those that have decisions power, please can you look at those ones? Okay. It is my appeal, yeah. And I think it's the appeal of the president to them as well, that as much as politics are built over time, yeah. the Article 232 needs to be looked at, and especially with
Trevor,
the fact of
there's another important point. Maybe Manzo will comment on this. Yes.
Now, yeah.
I think it's also the nature of how we do our politics. If, for example, you look at the way we want to form government. Yeah. Actually, the question of coalitions, maybe we can speak about this another time. Coalitions. So, because I know I have support from a certain region and a certain tribe and a certain party, that also informs how people are given opportunities in. If you look at go back to the debate about chief administrative secretaries, yeah. We were told, these are people who supported my campaign into getting politics. So there's also that angle of yeah. the manner in which we do our politics. If I seek the support of Lotte, Ndiekia here, then their natural outlook will be, once I get into government, Lotte nipatie watu kadhaa. Nipatie watu kadhaa. So
obvious.
No, it's not obvious because it's not a good thing. It's obvious, but it's not a good thing. Yeah. Because then he says, it makes it difficult for you to see a government serving all of us equitably. Okay. It's like you must favor a certain region that supported you, which is not, for me, it's not a good thing.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for making time this morning. Honorable Dan Manzo, Senator of Makueni, Honorable Titus Lotte, Member of Parliament Kacheliba, Dr. Kuru Okot, Leader Third Way Alliance, and Ken Ndiek, UDA Coordinator South Nyanza. Thank you very much for making time this morning. And that has been the State of the Nation. Coming up next is Cooking Tips. Bye for now.